Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Yeti from Earth to Plates, and in today's video we're gonna prepare some applesauce that we are gonna can so it becomes shelf stable. And these are apples that we picked ourselves. We went to an orchard and we handpicked them. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you might have seen one that I already said that we went apple picking, and I made a few apple things. And if you want, I can link it for you in the cards right now. You can go enjoy that video as well. But in here, I'm just going to show you how we make some shelf-stable applesauce. So I'm going to start by peeling, coring, and slicing up the apples. This will take me a little while. But I have 2 of these bags worth of apples. We're going to do 1 for sure, and we'll see how much we get if I'm going to dig into the second bag as well and make even more applesauce. So watch and enjoy, and I'll bring you along for the process. I forgot to measure out these apples before I started, so before I continue too much further, let me weigh these out. I have my scale here, and here I have the pot I'm going to use to cook this in. And I'm going to put these apples in and weigh it, because each batch of applesauce needs 8 pounds. Let's see. Yeah, this is 8 pounds exactly. Okay, so I'm going to peel these 3 additional apples before I start cutting these up. And I think I'm going to work with 1 batch at a time because these apples are really big and my hand is starting to hurt from holding it while I'm trying to peel it. Using the bowl to peel the apples directly into it was a very smart idea. It made the cleanup very easy. And as I was coring the apples, I also put those cores in there as well. Like that, every batch, when I was done, I just took the bowl and just got rid of it. If you have a compost, you can put it in the compost. I don't have that yet, so I put it into the garbage. Okay, now that I have all these apples peeled, I'm going to get them back on the board. And one at a time, I'm going to core it and quarter it, or just cut it into smaller pieces so that it has easier time cooking down and breaking down. Once they're cored and quartered, I'm just going to add them to the pot right there, and I'm going to start and let these I'm going to let this start cooking while I continue peeling and cutting up the rest of the apples. So over here you might see in the background, my husband is trying to help me out with peeling the apples, and he was trying to make it work with a drill. The drill shall hold the apple and turn it, and I would just hold the peeler and let it peel like that. He tried a few different bits and it didn't work. You might, if you've seen the hack going around, you might have to have a specific type of bit that can hold on to the apple, because at a certain point the apple just became hollow in the center and the bit didn't have what to hold on to, so like it just stopped turning, so it didn't work in the end. So I just had to hand peel it by myself, the traditional old-fashioned type of way, and that was fine because it gave me the time in between stuff were happening. It gave me the time to do that, and I did 1 batch at a time like that. I didn't do all of them at once. Okay. Now that I have the 8 pounds of apples in here, I'm going to add in 2 cups of water with a cinnamon stick, which is optional. Now we're gonna put this over the heat. I'm gonna bring it to a boil. Then I'm gonna reduce the heat and let it simmer covered for 25 to 35 minutes until the apples are very tender, and I have to keep on stirring it in between. So this is pretty full. I'm hoping once this starts cooking down that I'll be able to add a second batch so that at least I can do 2 batches at a time instead of a single batch and make this process go a little bit faster. But while this starts cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and peel and start coring and quartering these apples. So I'm gonna clear this bowl so that I can use this to weigh out an additional 8 pounds of apples before I start, so I can keep track of how many batches I'm making to know how much of the water and cinnamon to add. Okay, got my scale again. So over here my husband tried starting to peel this with a drill, and to see if we can do it like that, with the drill spinning it and peeling, just holding the peeler. Didn't work very well, so we're gonna use these apples for the next batch. Whoa! Don't go falling. Some of these apples are so huge. This will be our second batch. I'm going to remove the apples from the bowl so that I can put all the peels in there. Now that this is ready to go, let's check on the apples that are already cooking to see where that is up to and if we can add this in. Okay, so this is definitely boiling already. I already lowered it to simmer, but I don't feel like it has cooked down enough that I should be able to add a whole batch in here. So we're going to see. I believe that this pot over here, you can't even see where I'm pointing at. This pot over here is about the same size as this. So I think I'm gonna put the second batch of apples in here and we'll get this one going as well. Okay, just like before, we're gonna add in here 2 cups of water and a cinnamon stick. Now that we have both of these going, I am gonna start on the third batch, which I know I can for sure do. And then I'll see if I should do a fourth one or I'll leave the remainder to eat fresh. So I'm going to do that off camera, but I'm going to show you once we are ready to do the next step with these things. And so this has now cooked down for the desired amount of time. So to go to the next step, I'm going to look for the cinnamon stick and remove it. Here it is. And now this didn't break down as much as I would have wanted. So I'm gonna take a potato masher and I'm gonna break it up a little bit. Now if you want, you can add between a half to 1 cup of sugar in here at this point. But I am not gonna do that. Some of these apples are still kind of firm. Let's see. Keep in mind that this is still going to get cooked up some more as it cans. So even if it didn't break up fully, It'll break up a bit more at that point. So no, really tough. I guess not all of these apples are meant for cooking. Oh, should I try doing this with an immersion blender? I think I'm going to try that. But before I get that out, let me give this a mix. And before I get out the immersion blender, I'm also going to do another thing. I'm going to remove this pot from the stove top. And I'm going to get my canner on here and get the water for that boiling. Let's try this. Now that this is blended up, and I still have it kind of chunky, because that's how my family likes it. And like I said, it's still going to cook down a bit more as it's going through the canning process. So in the big pot over here, I just took my biggest stock pot because I don't have a canning pot. And I filled it up with water. Let me show you. Filled it up with water, and I have my cans in here, because it's very important to have the cans the same temperature as whatever you're going to put inside, so that you don't run the risk of it cracking. So since the applesauce just finished cooking, it is hot. I want to get the jars hot as well. And I already have my third batch all peeled. And while we're waiting to clean out this pot so that we can get the third batch going, I am going to start coring and quartering those apples for the third batch. And I'm going to keep an eye on my second batch, which is almost done cooking. So the canner is already warm. It's not boiling, but it's warm. So I'm going to start by removing one can at a time. And I'm going to spill the water that is inside the cans. And now I'm going to fill this up. Let me reference the recipe with how much headspace I need to leave. And a ½ inch. So a ½ inch is about this till here. So I'm going to fill it up till here. And I'm going to use the applesauce that I have already blended up. Now you want anything skinny and long to get rid of air bubbles. So I'm using the skewer. And that looks good. And now before I can cover this, I have a damp paper towel. I'm going to clean off the rim. And now a dry one to clean it off. Now I have here a bunch of new canning lids. I'm going to put one on. Now I'm going to take a ring and I'm going to make it finger tight. I think that's what the term is called. Where as long as you can turn it with 2 fingers, that's how much you want to go, not tighter. And I'm going to drop this into the canner and get the next jar out and do the same thing. And I will have to remove water from in here. So I think the next few jars, instead of spilling the water into the canner,
I'm just gonna spill it in the sink. I have to get myself proper tongs to do this, because with this, it is way too hard.
I'm gonna work on filling up the jars, the remaining jars, one jar at a time. And just like before, I remove it from the pot, spill the water that is inside, fill it up, clean up the rims, put on a new lid, put on a ring, and put it back in the water. And like that, one jar at a time until all of the applesauce is used up.
Okay, I don't have more to fill this one up, so I'm gonna blend up the second batch, and we'll be able to fill this one. In this pot, I will get my third batch going once I have the canner full. Okay, we're going to take out the cinnamon stick from here. And I'm going to blend this one up as well.
Just like before, I blended this up to a chunky consistency, and I'm gonna fill up the remaining jars. And this was actually the perfect amount to fill up all the jars that fit into the canner at this point in time.
Guys, I forgot something. I'm going to have to take all these cans out. Now, because I don't have a proper canning pot or a rack to put on the bottom, I'm just going to take a clean towel, put that in, and I'm going to put the cans on top of that. Because you don't want, as the water boils, the cans should shake. So the towel will absorb that. And the cans should stay steady. Let me fill up these last two and put it in and start the actual canning process going.
In the pot that I'm using as a canner, I can't fill it up completely using just quarts. So I ended up putting in 1 pint as well in the center so that I can fill up the pot all the way. And then I had some freezer containers, deli containers that I used for the remaining applesauce, and that went into the fridge.
Okay, now that we have all of our cans in here, I am going to cover the pot. I'm going to let it come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, we're going to let it boil for 20 minutes, and that is the amount that this needs to go to get this sealed. After it has boiled for 20 minutes, I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to remove the cover. We're going to let it rest for 10 minutes, and then we're going to remove the cans and leave it on the counter overnight to make sure that it seals properly. Okay, now that I have the canner going, we've got our third batch on the stove. And for this one, I just added the 2 cups of water. I am not putting in any cinnamon sticks so that we have a little bit of variety with our applesauce. Some will be just apple flavored, some will be with the cinnamon. And I'm gonna let this cook down just like I did with the other ones. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna wait for the canner to be done so that we can can up the rest of our apple cinnamon one, and hopefully by then this one will be ready as well, and we'll be able to combine those two and can it together. So we'll have to do 2 times the canning process. Okay, so the latest update is that the third batch of applesauce here is done. I blended it a lot finer, and this one is just apple. I left out the cinnamon. And the canner here is done as well. Just letting it sit for 10 minutes before I start removing the cans from the water, and we'll be able to add the next batch in and get this one going as well. I'm filling up my last few cans, and the ones that are just plain apple I am doing in the smaller ones. So the apple cinnamon ones I did in quart-sized jars, except for one jar. So I'm gonna have to make sure to label that before I forget. Otherwise, all the apple cinnamon ones are in the quarts, and the pint size will be just apple. Oh, I used up all the rings that I took out. Let me get a couple more. Now, when you're canning, you always want to use fresh lids, but the rings you can reuse. Because once these are done canning, you can remove the rings because you want to see if the seal, if it's sealed well, or if it pops. If it pops, you want to know not to consume it, and the ring can hold the top down. Let me actually first finish jarring up so that I can place the cans on this counter to cool overnight. Even though that's done already, it's okay if it sits a bit more than 10 minutes there. The 10 minutes is just that it shouldn't be shocked. The second it stops boiling, you turn off the flame. It's been boiling for 20 minutes. You don't want it to be shocked because that can cause the glass to crack. So it's okay if it sits there for longer. I'll get to it as soon as I am done with this. I now have 6 cans in there, and I believe I have enough to fill a 6 of this size, which I do. So let me get another one out. This one's not very clean. Let me get a clean one. Okay. Perfect amount of lids, perfect amount to fill 6 of these. Might have like one serving, less than a serving left, and I'll put that in the fridge to be enjoyed tomorrow. There's just a little bit left in there. Okay, I'm gonna leave the tongs here. I'm done with this and this. I'm gonna try to clear the counter here so that I can have the jars cooling on here, because it's best not to move them as they're cooling. So I'm just gonna take a clean towel. I'm gonna double it up, and I'm gonna put it on the counter here in the back. Just take out the cans one at a time and place them on the towel here. And again, you don't want to move it for at least 12 hours to ensure that it gets a proper seal on it. You want to be gentle with them as well. You don't want to ding it one into the other because they're hot. You don't want to risk it cracking. Okay, so this is the apple cinnamon one. I'm gonna have to know the difference between those and these. Okay. Why am I doing it with my hand? The water is boiling. I hope the water is not too hot for these jars to go in. After all that work, I don't want it cracking the glass. I think this size I would be able to fit 7, but I don't have enough to fill up a 7th one. Let's see. Move things a little bit. Yeah. Now, let's see how much. Yeah, I have enough water to cover. So I'm gonna turn on the temperature again. Turn on the fire again. Let it come to a boil. Once it's a boil, the smaller ones go for 15 minutes. So I'm gonna make a timer for 15 minutes, let it boil for 15 minutes, and then cool it again for 10 minutes, and then take it out. And now for this pint one that I just took out, because I jarred it with quarts, then it's okay to go over the time. It's not okay to do less. So I wouldn't do 15 minutes. because I have this one, I'd rather do 20 minutes because this is what the bigger ones need, and this will be a little bit over, which is totally okay. Now the rings you don't want to take off until it has cooled. Um, Tonight before I go to bed, I'm gonna try to remove them. Maybe I'll wait till the morning. I'll see. But I'm gonna have to check before I put them on the shelf and make sure that they all sealed properly. Okay, these have now been sitting out on the counter for somewhere between 12 and 24 hours. So we're gonna remove these covers because these we don't need for it to stay on while it's in storage. Well, I don't know what happened with that one. We're gonna have to check it. That one too. I might not have cleaned it very well before I put it into the canner. Okay, so what I'm now gonna do with all of these is I'm gonna wipe them down because they are not very clean now. Some of them might feel a bit sticky. And I'm gonna check the top. So the way to check it is by just lifting it from the lid. If it doesn't detach, that means that it was sealed properly. And I'm going to label what it is, especially because I made two different varieties. And the date yesterday. Yes. And then these will be able to go downstairs in long-term storage. And as we want to eat it, we'll bring it upstairs.
A couple things to note if you want to start canning at home and you don't have the equipment for it, you don't have to go out and buy it all. Number one is you have to have new lids whenever you can, because it can't reseal if you use the same one. Number two is if you don't have a rack, do like what I did, put down a towel, because you don't want the glass directly on the bottom of the pot, because the jars can shake as it boils, and the shaking can cause the jars to crack, the glass to break. For that same reason, that you don't want the glass to crack, you're going to try to get the cans as close to temperature as whatever you're going to put inside. And the same thing with the water. You're going to try to get the water in the canner about the same temperature.
Okay, so here I brought up from the basement. I have one of those boxes that I got when I bought a case of these jars, and I saved it for two reasons. One, to be able to move these jars easily up and down when I'm dealing with like all this, when I have quantity. And the second reason is because I have shelves that are wired shelves. Now I don't want to risk anything wobbling and falling. So having it in a box like this will help keep it stable on the shelf. So now this can easily be taken downstairs with a box. It's heavy, but it's easily taken. And then these, I'll just put, I have three here that didn't go into the box, and these will go directly on the shelf. Awesome. And actually, I'm thinking now, the crushed tomatoes I'm going to be using for cooking now the next few days. So these can come out. They're going to go upstairs. So I can put two more of them in here. And only one will be on the shelf. And we'll leave this one up here. So now it's a few days later. We're going to open this up. Now, I don't have the proper canning equipment, so I don't have an opener. So all I do is I push up on the bottom. This I had released before, so you didn't hear the hiss of the pressure releasing. Now this lid cannot be reused, so this will just go into the garbage, and I'm gonna put up a clean lid on here when I put it away. Now guys, if you enjoyed watching this video and you want to watch some more between now and my next upload, I will put some up on my screen for you to watch between now and then. If you liked the video, consider hitting the like button or the subscribe button to keep up with us as we expand the garden and do more of these cooking and baking videos. And I look forward to seeing you guys on my next one.